Julian here, and I just want to start this video off and thank you everybody so much for 5,000 subscribers. I was trying to do it by the end of this month, and we got it. I did it. It happened. And I can't thank you guys enough. Like, I really, really appreciate it. All the support. You guys are amazing, and thank you so much. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make music like Peggy Gou. This tutorial has been requested quite a bit ever since my first tutorial, so I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys how to do it. And as usual, you can get the samples and project file and MIDI and presets from this video in the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. If you want to support me, that's a really great way to do it, and I really appreciate it. So here's the video. So this loop that I have right here is the one you heard in the intro, and I'm just going to break it down sort of step by step. So the first thing I have here are these hi-hats. And what they are is it's two hi-hats, this one, and then this one. And I put them in a drum rack, and then I've just made this kind of pattern. So let me deactivate those real quick. So on this closed hi-hat, you can hear it's sort of going up and down in velocity. So I did that, and then I just added this open one on the offbeats, or on the upbeats. And so, this is a pretty simple kind of house hi-hat pattern. I won't talk about it too much. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. As far as like what I've done, I put these in a drum rack. And the reason why I put these in a drum rack was because I don't usually use drum racks, but with hi-hats or like percussion or anything that's like a group like that of sounds that are similar, I like to put them in drum racks because you can control them all together a lot easier. And that's sort of what I don't like about putting like all of my drums in a drum rack is I like to have them all as individual tracks that I can just edit over here with the volume and stuff, and effects. But again, with the hi-hats or like percussion or anything like that where it's all similar, I like putting them into a group. So drum racks are great for that. And so I have these two samples are pretty simple. This one is just I think I got this from some drum break. And then this it's just like an open 909 hi-hat. And what I did was I pitched it up one semitone. So here's before I did anything. I pitched it up one semitone. And then I added this a bit warmer saturator preset. And yeah, I really just did those two things just to like make it a little bit crunchier and just sort of punch through a little bit more. I felt like this was just kind of like a little bit too soft. So I wanted to add some stuff to, like, again, just make it a little crunchier and a little bit brighter and just bring it out more. So those are the hi-hats. And the only other thing I'll say also is, like, when you're programming hi-hats like this, because these kind of hi-hats are very important for Peggy Gou's style. Like, I've heard a lot of this in her music. She likes using these really dirty hi-hats. Is you got to make sure that the closed hi-hat is way quieter than the open one. So, like, here. That open hi-hat is, you can see when it hits on the little meter here, that it's obviously considerably louder than this little closed hi-hat. And yeah, that's just kind of something I've noticed. It gives it like more, like if you pay a lot of attention to that, it gives it more of that kind of organic feel that she has a lot of times in her drums. Next thing I'll show you is the kick. Kick is pretty simple. It's just this kind of like dirty kick that I had. And I did this little pattern where it's 4 on the floor, but then there's like a few different little jumps here and there with like 16th notes and 8th notes. And I did this, I mean, this is like a pretty this is kind of standard fare for lo-fi house. This is done a lot in a lot of different tracks by a lot of different artists. But I hear Peggy Gou doing it a lot because her drums are definitely a lot more live, I feel like. I think that's like part of what makes her style, is the way her drums like really sort of come to life. And so I wanted to do some stuff here to do that. So that was the point of kind of adding in the random little jumps there. I didn't really process this at all. It's just a solid kick, so I didn't really have to do too much. Next thing I'll show you is the clap. The clap sounds like this. It's just this kind of like more of a organic kind of clap sample. And I did a little bit of stuff to it. I put on it a bit warmer, and I pitched it down. This is what it sounds like dry. So it was just a little bit too kind of thin sounding, but I like the texture of it, so I played around with it and pitched it down -2, and that kind of like beefed it up a little bit because it was just a little bit lower in pitch and just more kind of like, I guess, just harder hitting. And then I added this a bit warmer, and that you can hear is distorting it a little bit, but that's what really kind of beefs it up and gives it that like crunchy kind of sound. So I really like using that on claps. Next thing I'll show you is the bass. So the bass is pretty simple actually. It just follows the chords. And all it is basically it's this analog patch. I'm going to show you the notes in a second, but it's this analog patch. And all it is one saw wave with a low pass filter with the envelope just set how it is by default, but I did turn up the envelope amount a little bit. So you get like that kind of, that pluckiness out of it, but it's not like too much. Like, if I did like this, that would be, yeah, see, that would be a little bit too much. So I have it set like that, and then as you can see, there's some processing over here that's affecting it quite heavily. I put on, this is what it sounds like dry. It was just a little bit too thin and didn't have enough of an organic feel. Again, like a lot of what makes Peggy Gou's music is a lot of like organic and raw kind of textures and sounds and like just a lot of like realness. So I wanted to beef this up a little bit and make it a little bit dirtier to make it kind of fit that vibe. So I have the I have this a bit warmer here, which really beefs it up, distorts it a little bit, and just makes it that much crunchier. And then I have this auto filter doing a low pass. So that's cutting off a lot of the high end, and you can hear it's creating this little mid-range kind of bump around here because of this resonance. But I like the way that sounds. And it fits in this mix nice. It blends well with the kick. It's not like too similar frequency range wise to the kick, but it's not too different either to the point where they don't work together. And yeah, as far as the notes that it's playing, it's just following the chords. Pretty simple. But what I will say is that I don't hear a lot of like long basses in Peggy Gou's music. Like she would never have like a bass that just follows literally just the root notes of the chord. You always have to have it be kind of bouncy for her style. And for a lot of this kind of stuff, these like bouncier bass lines are definitely a lot more popular. So I recommend taking some time with it and just sort of drawing some things in and playing around and just seeing what you can come up with. Next thing I'll show you are the chords. So the chords sound like this. And so I have this sort of like Rhodes kind of sound. It's actually a preset in Ableton's sidebar. If you go, it's under the piano stuff. I'll show you in a sec. It's under piano and keys. It's this EP faceplant. Where is it? There it is. So this is just like a nice kind of Rhodes sound. And then what I did, there we go. So you can hear that just kind of sounds good on its own. But I wanted to beef it up a little bit and make it a little bit more lo-fi. So I put this auto filter on, which is a band pass, and it's on 12 dB, so it's not doing as much attenuation. And that helps kind of give it that sampled feel. And then I put on a reverb just to give it like a little bit of space. I turned the size down almost all the way, so you can hear that's just giving it some nice kind of like roomy ambience without like doing too much or making it too like lost in reverb. And then after that I just put on a bit warmer, which I really like how that sounds because you can hear, because of the resonance on this filter, we're getting some nice kind of like crunchy overdrive, and especially with, I'm not playing the same chords that this is playing, but this, when this MIDI file goes through it sounds really, really good, I think. And yeah, so that's a pretty simple sound. I mean, it sounds really good, but it's not too hard to get these kind of Rhodes sounds. People have asked me about these a bit, and again, it's really not too difficult. You just need to get the saturation and the filtering right, and you can get this kind of tone out of it. As far as the chords go, it's the same chords you saw the bass line playing or playing around. but I've obviously added some more voices over top of those root notes. So basically, what I did was this is like an F major 7, and this is a D sharp major 7, and then this is a D 7th, I believe. And then what I did was I took the thirds of all of these chords and put them up an octave. So you get those kind of like leading the voices, I guess. And it just brings them out more, and it spreads the chords apart more as well, which I really like because you can kind of distinguish between each individual note a little bit easier this way. And it just gives it more clarity. The next thing I'll show you is this little pluck sound. It's very simple. It's just that. And I wanted to make this because I hear a lot of these kind of effects in her music, and like there's definitely a lot of stuff like this going on in the background at most times in her tracks. So I wanted to just sort of talk about like how to make sounds like this. I believe mostly hers are sampled, but they could be made with synths, and it's definitely very possible to make them with synths. So what I did was basically I have this little thing. It's just playing A because this is an F major and A is in the key of F major, and it sounded good over the chords. And all it is it's basically just this little saw wave pluck with analog. So just one saw wave, and then the filter with the cutoff down a bit. I like barely did anything to this. I think I turned up the envelope a little bit or something. And then I turned the resonance way up, so you get that like kind of nasty sort of overtone, I guess. After that, what's really happening, or what's really doing this sound is this echo. So I'll show you without the echo. So that's like the sound, but it doesn't have that kind of like analog sort of dirty sound to it, I guess. So I use this echo preset, or this preset for Ableton's echo. If you go under vintage delay, there's this one called clip/analog. And what I did to it was, basically, when you bring it on, you may be able to hear it has this noise on here, so I turned that off. And then also, another thing about this is it's very loud. It's supposed to distort the sound a little bit, but I didn't want that. I just wanted that kind of slappy analog delay type of sound. So what I did was I just turned this input down to default, or I just returned it to default, basically. You can just hit backspace or delete on it. And now it's just got that nice kind of echo sound, but it's not so loud and like unbearable and hard to mix. So that's really it for that sound. I mean, it's very simple, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I hear a lot of these kind of analog-y, like echoey kind of sounds in the background of a lot of her tracks, so I wanted to cover something like that. And then the last thing I want to show you is just some cassette noise. Very simple. This is in the sample pack, of course. Like really, really simple. It's literally just a sample of some cassette noise, and I just put it in the background for ambience and to sort of help with the vibe, like, of making this sound older and dirtier. When you add this stuff in the background, it kind of makes it sound like you're listening to it like on a tape or on a record or something like that, and it just sort of helps to build the sonic world you're trying to build with your track. So that's gonna be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and like this video and subscribe. Maybe even share the video if it really helped you out. Thank you so much again to everybody for 5K subscribers. I honestly can't believe that I got to this point even. So thank you so much to everybody, and I really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the sample pack for this video in the description, and I will see you guys again tomorrow for another tutorial.